Martin and I had a plan to go see the first snow up north. But right before we were supposed to leave, he bailed. Sarah's mom is sick. She couldn't get a ticket home, so I'm driving her. Sarah was a student in his program, a year younger, and on a full scholarship. This was the third time he'd stood me up for her. But this time, I didn't cry or make a scene. I just calmly told him we were done. On the other end of the line, he tried to placate me, his voice casual. Come on, don't be like that. I'm just doing a good deed here. Just cancel the tickets like a good girl. I'll take you to see the snow during winter break. But I didn't cancel my ticket. I grabbed my suitcase and got on the plane. He had no idea that this time, I was serious about breaking up. As for the snow, I didn't need him to take me. Someone else was willing to see it with me. I was packing for our trip when Martin called. The forecast said it was going to be a cold winter, with an early first snow. It was mid-October, and Burlington, Vermont, was about to get its first snowfall of the year. Having grown up in Florida, seeing real snow had been a dream of mine for years. When Martin found out, he tapped me on the head. Then that's what we'll do. What's that saying again? He thought for a moment, then smiled. They say if you see the first snow with someone, you'll be together forever. So, we booked the flights and hotel right away. I looked up tons of travel guides and planned out our entire itinerary, down to where we'd eat every meal. Wanting to look cute for the trip, I bought a red scarf, snow boots, a knit hat, and fleece-lined gloves. I spent ages in front of my dorm room mirror, trying on different combinations. Even my roommate could tell how excited I was. Tina, she teased, you're probably not going to get any sleep tonight, are you? I was about to answer when my phone rang. It was Martin. I couldn't help but show off. I bought us matching coats. We can take cute couple photos in the snow. But before I could finish, he cut me off. Tina, cancel the tickets. We're not going to Burlington tomorrow. I froze for a second, then asked dumbly, why? Sarah's mom is sick. She couldn't get a ticket home, and I promised I'd drive her tomorrow. But I'd checked the bus and train schedules from campus to Sarah's hometown. There were still plenty of seats available. You were looking at the express routes. Sarah doesn't have much money. To save $50, she always takes the slow train with the cheap seats. I could hear him chewing on a straw as he spoke, his tone breezy. Tina's always so kind. You wouldn't make a scene over something like this, would you? Besides, I'm doing a good deed. You should be proud of me, Tina. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, wearing my bunny ear knit hat, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was already the third time Martin had bailed on me for Sarah. Martin and I were childhood sweethearts. Our parents had practically arranged our marriage since we were kids. As far back as I can remember, we'd spent every single one of his birthdays together. Every year, he'd clasp his hands together and make a wish, I want to be with Tina forever. We're definitely going to get married someday. After high school, he changed his college application at the last minute to stay in state so we could go to the same university. We'd walk hand in hand down the tree-lined paths on campus, the couple everyone envied. The turning point came in our junior year. A new underclassman joined Martin's research lab. At first, Martin would always complain to me about her. She's so dense. I've shown her how to do it a dozen times, but she just can't remember. I have no idea how someone with her brain got into this university. And she dresses like a total country bumpkin, always in the same black pants and white shirt. Like she's from some backwater town. Later, Martin accidentally found out that Sarah came from a poor family and was living on financial aid. The next time he talked about her, his tone was tinged with guilt. She's working part-time jobs and going to class, she's always spinning like a top. It's no wonder she can't remember things. I didn't think much of it at the time. I even told Martin that since she was having a tough time, he should help her out where he could. But I never expected that the first time Martin stood me up, it would be for Sarah. It was our anniversary. I'd booked a table at a fancy French restaurant, waiting to have dinner with Martin. But he never showed. And he didn't answer his phone. The food came and went cold. After the waiter cleared it away, he finally called me back. Sarah had a high fever, so I took her to the hospital. I must have left my phone back at the lab. I'm so sorry, Tina. I know you waited a long time. But it was an emergency. You're not mad at me, right? I'll take you out for French food tomorrow. But we couldn't go tomorrow. The place was so popular I'd had to book it a week in advance. But I didn't get angry with him. I just nodded quietly. Okay. I told myself that health was the most important thing. We could celebrate our anniversary another time. It was understandable for Martin to take a fellow student to the hospital. But once is a fluke. Twice is a pattern. That time, Martin and I had plans to go to a concert. He bailed again. Because Sarah's period came early, and she begged him to run to the nearby supermarket to buy her some brown sugar. Martin didn't just buy the brown sugar, he made her a warm drink with it. By the time he got to the concert venue, the gates had long since closed. Security wouldn't let him in. He explained. Sarah's face was white with pain. You always have such bad cramps, and it just made me think of you, so I had to help her. I found it absurd. I asked him, coughing, couldn't she have just ordered it on DoorDash? Why did she have to ask you? Delivery costs money. She's broke, where is she going to get the money for that? I was right there with her, so it was totally normal for her to ask me, right? It's not like I'm into some country bumpkin. What are you so worried about, Tina? He stopped mid-explanation that day. Because Sarah called, saying there was a problem with the lab data, and he had to rush back. Looks like the concert's a bust. I'm heading back to the lab. The data Sarah ran is messed up, and the professor wants it by tomorrow. If I don't help her, she's going to get chewed out and end up in tears. He turned and left, leaving me standing alone in front of the stadium. The early autumn wind was a little chilly. I shivered. My jacket was still in his bag. I called out to him, hoping to get my jacket, but he was already in his car. He rolled down the window and told me, "Don't be difficult, princess. I'll make it up to you as soon as I'm done with this." I watched his car speed away, then hugged my arms and started the long walk back to my dorm. I was cold all over, and my heart felt numb. I got sick after that. A high fever. Martin was too busy to bother with me. At the same time, I saw him pop up on Sarah's social feed. He was hunched over a laptop, focused on something. Sarah had captioned it, "The best senior ever." He bought me pads and hot brown sugar water, and now he's helping me fix my experiment data. I stared at her post for a long time and suddenly realized something between Martin and me had changed. He used to worry if I even forgot a light jacket, afraid I'd catch a cold. But today, I was coughing and shivering right in front of him, and he didn't seem to notice at all. It wasn't that he'd gotten careless. It was that his energy was focused on someone else. I almost tortured myself, rereading Sarah's post over and over. My cheeks grew hotter and hotter. The fever was getting worse. I wrapped myself tightly in my blanket and buried my face in my pillow. It was the first time the thought of giving up on Martin had ever crossed my mind. In a delirious haze, I had a dream. I dreamt of when we were kids, and Martin had pulled me out of the water after I'd fallen in a lake. He was trembling as he gave me a piggyback ride, talking non-stop the whole way, terrified I'd pass out. He said a lot of things, but in the dream, only one sentence echoed over and over. "Tina, if I ever mess up in the future, will you give me 3 chances? Please?" Back then, I'd promised him. Okay. Now, all 3 chances were used up. It was time to break up. When I told Martin I wanted to break up, he was silent for 3 seconds. After a moment, he asked in a low voice, "You're breaking up with me because I won't take you to see the snow in Vermont?" I didn't answer, just stared at the driving directions on my phone. From our university to Sarah's hometown was a drive of over 900 miles. Martin hated long road trips. Whenever we planned a trip, he wouldn't even consider any destination that was more than 600 miles away. So, he could make exceptions for other people after all. Can you stop being so dramatic? Her parents are fighting over a divorce, of course she has to go home. We can see the snow anytime. I'll take you during winter break. He sighed, trying to coax me patiently. Come on, be good and cancel the tickets. I crouched on the floor, putting clothes back in my suitcase one by one, finding the whole situation ridiculous. You're driving 900 miles to save Sarah $50 on a bus ticket. But if I cancel my flight, it's going to cost me over $100. To my surprise, he laughed. You little money grubber. So this is about the money, huh? $100 is nothing to us, but it's a huge deal for Sarah. She earns every penny herself, unlike you, who can just ask for whatever you want. And she's so stubborn, she'd never accept help. If she had to buy that cheap bus ticket, she'd probably skip dinner for a week when she gets back just to make up for it. Even though Martin wasn't in front of me, I could picture the look on his face as he said it. A slight frown, his thin lips pressed together, his eyes filled with an unmistakable pity. A sour feeling twisted in my gut. I shot back, if she won't accept help from others, why is she letting someone drive her all the way home? Martin had always been a patient person, but this time, his patience ran out fast. Tina, what is your problem? If you're so worried about the cancellation fee, I'll pay for it, okay? Why do you have to talk about her behind her back like this? Growing up, Martin had never spoken to me so harshly. I paused my packing, and a wave of hurt I could no longer suppress washed over me. He must have realized his tone was too sharp. Tina, I cut him off. Martin, we're done. You throw break up around every time there's a problem. Are you really that obsessed with having fun that you absolutely have to go on this trip? Stop messing around. If you say you want to break up again, I'm going to take you seriously, and then you'll be the one crying. I pulled the matching coat out of my suitcase. I am serious. We're breaking up. He seemed to laugh, but it was laced with anger. Fine. Break up, then. After the call ended, my roommates were all staring at me. One of them asked tentatively, Tina, are you still going on the trip? Of course I was. Everything was already planned. Why wouldn't I go? It's not like I needed him to take me. I bent down and went back to packing. But even though I was about to see the snow I'd been dreaming of, my heart felt heavy and clogged. Just then, I got a video message. It was from Martin's roommate, Evan. I opened the video. The camera was on Martin, who had his back to it, playing an online game. One of his roommates asked, Martin, man, Tina's about to break up with you. How are you in the mood to play games? Martin didn't even turn around. She won't, he said casually. Tina's just being jealous and stubborn, throwing a little tantrum. Don't I know her? I'll give her the silent treatment for a few days, and she won't be able to take it. She'll come crawling back, begging me to get back together. The roommate asked, aren't you worried she'll actually go to Vermont by herself? No way, Martin said, his voice full of certainty. She's a total chicken. She's never traveled anywhere far by herself. She wouldn't dare. Besides, she loves taking pictures. Who's going to take them for her if I'm not there? She wouldn't have any fun. Then I heard Sarah's voice from his computer speakers. He was playing with her. The video ended there. I found the whole thing bizarre and sent Evan a question mark. He replied quickly. Hey, Tina. I'm not trying to stir up trouble or anything. I just wanted to ask, are you still going to Vermont? I happen to have a ticket for tomorrow, too. I was planning on catching the first snow. My itinerary is the same as yours. And I'm a photographer. I've got a DSLR, a GoPro, and a drone. If you don't mind, could we be travel buddies? Of all of Martin's roommates, Evan was the one I knew the least. His family was loaded. I'd heard he was the heir to some major corporation, and he never lived in the campus dorms. I had met him once at a photography club meeting. My only impression then was that he was incredibly good-looking, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. A perfect build. Not long after that meeting, Martin told me Evan had moved back into the dorm. But he was aloof and didn't really hang out with the other guys. He never came to their group dinners. I only remember him showing up to one party. All the other guys had brought their girlfriends. Evan came alone, and surrounded by all the couples, he looked completely out of place. That was when we added each other as friends, but we'd never exchanged a single word. Now, staring at the message on my screen, I thought for a moment. I wasn't a fan of traveling alone. Having a travel buddy to look out for each other would be nice. And Evan seemed pretty reliable. So, I agreed. Okay. The flight was at 10 the next morning. We agreed to meet at the airport. I spotted him from a distance. He was leaning against a glass door with a black suitcase, dressed in casual pants. He was probably so good-looking that he stood out in any crowd. When he saw me, he gave me a polite smile and naturally took the suitcase from my hand. "I can get it," I tried to protest. "It's no trouble." After checking in, we boarded the plane. Our seats were next to each other. He cleared his throat and pulled a neck pillow out of his bag, handing it to me. "You can use this to sleep later." I was a little taken aback. I'd been so emotional yesterday that I hadn't slept well. I woke up that morning with dark circles under my eyes, completely exhausted, and had posted a quick note on my private social media account. "Need to catch up on sleep on the plane. A pillow would be perfect right now." I used that private account just for random thoughts. Not even Martin knew about it. So there was no way Evan could have known. I figured it must have been a coincidence. "Have you done any planning? Do you want to see my itinerary?" I asked Evan. He nodded, looking it over as he gave his feedback. "This is really well planned. You've covered all the main spots, but there's one small issue. See, on the second day, you have 4 attractions scheduled. They're in different parts of the city and pretty far apart. You might not make it to all of them. I'd suggest grouping these St. John's Cathedral with the Church Street Marketplace and Main Street. They're all close to each other, so we can visit them together." I watched, slightly stunned, as he took out a pencil and started adjusting the schedule. Whenever I traveled with Martin, I was the one who did all the planning. He never knew anything about our destination's attractions or food and never once looked at my itinerary. Sometimes, if I overscheduled our days or we ended up at a tourist trap that looked better online, he'd tap me on the head and complain. "Tina, were you being lazy? Did you even do your research? My feet are killing me. What's so great about a dump like this?" Over time, I'd forgotten that a trip is a 2-person affair, something you're supposed to plan together. But Evan was different. He had clearly done his homework. He quickly helped me revise the itinerary. The plane was already in the air, and I was feeling sleepy. It wasn't long before I drifted off. When I woke up, my head was resting on Evan's shoulder, and my hand was on his leg. Evan was sitting bolt upright, perfectly still. I jumped, scrambling to sit up straight and apologize. "It's fine. You looked like you were sleeping so soundly, I didn't want to wake you," he replied politely. For the next few days, Evan and I explored Burlington according to our new plan. I discovered that Evan was an excellent travel buddy. He wasn't like Martin, who would complain that the restaurants I picked weren't good enough. He also didn't just snap a couple of lazy photos of me and call it a day. Whether it was barbecue or pot roast, he praised everything. "Tina, you're amazing. Every place you find is delicious." When taking pictures, he would find the best light and help me with my poses. The photos he took were genuinely great. The only downside was that the first snow, which the forecast had promised, was stubbornly holding off. Luckily, we had booked a few extra days off, so we still had time to wait. That day, after we left a historic estate outside the city, I was scrolling through my phone on the subway, bored. I happened to see Sarah's feed. I clicked on her profile out of habit and noticed that Martin was in every single one of her posts. At first, she still called him Senior. Thanks to my amazing senior for driving all day to take me home. You must be tired. Giving the guest room to my senior, so I have to squeeze in with my mom tonight, lol. Later, her nickname for him changed to a certain someone. Someone's definitely a city boy. He's never even seen a goose before. Got chased all over the yard. Someone who's used to fancy food actually said my mom's home cooking is better. Someone insisted on dragging me up the mountain to pick mushrooms. But honey, what mushrooms are there this time of year? He said this sea of green, rolling forest is even more beautiful than the snow up north. Seriously, it was like she was posting 10 times a day. Weren't her parents getting a divorce? She seemed pretty happy to me. I had just locked my screen when I saw Evan suddenly pull out his phone and hold it in front of me. Tina, I'm not trying to stir the pot, but I think there are some things you should know. Evan showed me the chat history from his dorm's group chat. A roommate asked Martin, "How's the trip?" Martin, "It's great. The countryside is pretty basic, but it has its own charm." Another roommate asked, "Have you talked to your Tina yet? She might have actually gone to Vermont. I haven't seen her in class the last couple of days." Martin replied, "No way she'd dare. That elective has a ton of people, so it's normal you haven't seen her." I haven't reached out. She needs to learn her lesson, so she'll stop threatening to break up all the time. Dude, you're way too confident. Tina's gorgeous. What if someone makes a move while you two are fighting? Martin's reply was nonchalant, "You underestimate how much she loves me." But yeah, it's been 3 days. She's probably in her dorm, too sad to sleep. I'll give her a call after Sarah and I are done exploring this area. The neat, typed words made me sick to my stomach. I looked up at Evan. "So? What's your point?" "Nothing. I just think Martin has zero boundaries. I'm not trying to add fuel to the fire. I just wanted to ask, you're not actually going to get back together with a guy who drives another girl home and stays at her house, are you?" As he got to the last part of his sentence, his tone shifted, becoming careful, probing. "No." He didn't say any more after that, just put his phone away with a hint of a smile in his eyes. It was a long ride back from the estate. I was exhausted from the past few days and ended up dozing off on the subway. My phone was in my pocket and nearly fell on the floor, but luckily Evan caught it. I was half asleep when my phone started ringing. The subway car was crowded, and Evan was sitting very close to me. I could feel his whole body tense up. After 3 rings, he finally said to me, "Tina, it's Martin. Do you want to answer?" I shook my head. I was so tired. I just wanted to be in bed, not waste any more time on Martin. "Should I get it for you?" he asked suddenly. My brain was fuzzy with sleep, and for a moment, I didn't understand what he was saying. By the time I did, he had already answered the call. Martin's lazy voice came through the speaker. "Hey, princess. Done with your tantrum? I'm at Sarah's place now. I'll be back in about 3 days. I even bought you that lilac jam you like. I know you didn't really mean it about breaking up, so I won't hold it against you. Just don't say things like that again, you hear me?" His tone was full of a magnanimous, condescending grace, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. I found it both laughable and disgusting. Evan listened patiently until he finished, then spoke. "Are you looking for Tina?" Hearing a man's voice, Martin went silent for 3 seconds, then his voice shot up an octave. "Evan? Where's Tina? Why do you have her phone?" "Oh, you mean Tina," Evan said, turning to look at me as I rested with my eyes closed. A small smile played on his lips. "She had a long day and is completely worn out. She's sleeping next to me right now. Should I wake her for you?" I had been out all day and really was tired. And I had been dozing on the subway. What he said was factually correct, but the way he said it sounded so strange. On the other end of the line, after a moment of silence, Martin suddenly let out a breath of relief. "Oh, I almost forgot. It's Wednesday. You and Tina have that class together. I haven't talked to her for a couple of days. Has she been crying a lot? She must be exhausted from all the crying. She always gets sleepy when she cries. Let her rest her head on the desk and sleep for a bit. I'll call her back later." Not expecting that reaction, Evan was momentarily stunned. Then he let out a low chuckle. "You really trust me, huh? I wouldn't trust anyone else, but you're different." Martin laughed too. "I've seen that girl your family set you up with. She's a tall, gorgeous woman who had half the guys in the building drooling. When you've got someone like that in your life, why would you even look at a childish crybaby like Tina?" From the other end of the line, I could hear Sarah's voice. "Martin, who are you talking to? I made some apple pie. It's still warm. Want a slice?" And with that, Martin hurriedly hung up. "Something's come up. Talk to you later." After the call ended, Evan saw that I was awake and handed my phone back to me. "Do you want to grab a late-night snack before we head back?" he asked. I was a little hungry, but I shook my head. "No, thanks." I had always assumed Evan was single, but today I learned he had an arranged marriage partner. And he was out traveling alone with me? That didn't seem right. At the subway exit, someone was selling candied fruit skewers. Evan bought me one with green grapes. It was my favorite flavor. But this time, I didn't accept it. On the way back to the hotel, the more I thought about it, the more I felt his actions were inappropriate. I firmly believe that people in relationships shouldn't have travel buddies of the opposite sex. It's an incredibly irresponsible thing to do to your partner. So, I deliberately kept my distance from him. I figured we had 3 days left on our trip, and it would be better for me to spend the rest of the time on my own. Just as I was trying to figure out how to bring it up, Evan called my name. "Tina." "Yeah?" He was standing at my hotel room door, leaning against the frame, and told me earnestly. "I used to have an arranged marriage partner, but neither of us had any feelings for each other. The last time she came to campus to see me, it was to discuss how to call off the engagement. The engagement has now been successfully cancelled, and I've convinced my parents to let me choose who I marry. In other words, I'm currently single." His slightly long bangs partially covered his eyebrows. He looked down at me. "I'm not saying this for any other reason than to avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings. I'm not like Martin. He had a girlfriend but still got tangled up with other women. I'm not that kind of person." At that, he stood up straight and handed me the candied grape skewer he'd been carrying all this time. "I don't like green grapes, and it would be a shame to throw it out. Considering I took so many great photos for you today, could you do me a favor and get rid of it for me?" I looked up at him. Evan really was different from Martin, at least in terms of personality. Martin was the type who hated clearing up misunderstandings. He used to say that misunderstandings only happened because of a lack of trust. So whenever I misunderstood him, he never took the initiative to explain. He just let me guess, let me overthink, let me stew in anxiety. Today, I discovered that men were, in fact, capable of using their words. I took the skewer from Evan's hand. "Okay. See you tomorrow." After washing up, I was just about to go to bed when a message from Martin came through. "Tina, you back at the dorm?" "I'm still up. Sarah's bed is so small, I can't even turn over. But at least the bedding is clean and tidy. Staying in the countryside is actually pretty nice. I'll take you to the countryside next time." I replied, "I'm not in the dorm. I'm in Vermont." "You little liar. You were just in your elective class with Evan. You think I don't know? Okay, stop being difficult. I want to hear you whine a little. Send me a voice message." How had I never realized he was so delusional? I had to get up early to see the tiger preserve tomorrow and didn't want to waste time on him, so I just blocked him. The next second, my phone rang. Tina, have you had enough? I'm already giving you an out. How ridiculous. He was lying in another woman's bed, on her pillow, under her blanket, texting me, and calling that giving me an out? Tired of arguing, I reminded him, Martin, we've already broken up. Don't bother me unless it's important. He shot back angrily, still acting up. You want me to actually break up with you for real? Yeah, let's. After a moment of silence, his voice came back, tinged with gritted teeth. Fine. We're done. First one to crawl back is a dog. Don't come crying to me. For the sake of peace and quiet, I blocked Martin's number too. The next day, Evan and I went to the wildlife preserve as planned. The snow I had been hoping for still hadn't fallen. But the tigers were adorable, like giant, fluffy golden tabby cats. We sat in a bus protected by iron bars, watching the tigers leap into the air to snatch pieces of chicken. We could also feed them meat directly through small holes using long chopsticks. The weather forecast wasn't very accurate. It was supposed to drop below freezing, but the temperature was still above. However, there was a lot of moisture in the air. We didn't get a blizzard, but we did get a downpour. We took shelter under the eaves of a building. The rain was torrential. By the time it stopped, several large puddles had formed on the ground. One of them was right in our path and looked pretty deep. I was still wearing my white sneakers, which would definitely get soaked if I stepped in it. Just as I was thinking about what to do, Evans suddenly crouched down in front of me. Hop on. I was taken aback. Huh? Your shoes will get soaked. I'll carry you across. I hesitated for a moment and glanced down at his shoes. He was wearing black leather boots, perfectly suited for the rainy weather. Noticing my hesitation, he cleared his throat and explained, it's normal for travel buddies to help each other out. Besides, we have other places to go. It'll be uncomfortable for you to walk around with wet shoes, and there aren't any shoe stores around here. So, I lightly put my arms around his neck and let him carry me across the puddle. Evan had long legs and usually walked quickly, but now, maybe because the ground was slippery, he walked very slowly. Being so close, I noticed that his skin was not only fair but also smooth. His eyelashes were long and curled, like tiny slides. Evan didn't seem to wear cologne, but he had a fresh, grassy scent, like after a rainstorm. Maybe because he was wearing so many layers, he seemed a little warm. A faint blush appeared behind his ears and spread down his neck. Finally, we were across the puddle. He set me down on the steps, then suddenly lowered his head and reached up to touch the top of my hair. His scent enveloped me. I could even see my own reflection in his pupils. Startled, I was about to step back, but he had already pulled his hand away. In his palm lay a leaf that had drifted down from somewhere. He had just wanted to brush a stray leaf from my hair. As if he hadn't noticed my reaction, he asked in a normal tone if I wanted to get an ice cream bar. I nodded. Sure. And with that, the little moment passed. The day was full and fun, but as our departure date neared, there was still no sign of snow. What was even more annoying was that before we left, the forecast had promised snow for these exact days. Now that I was here, the forecast showed nothing but rain or clouds. It looked like the snow wasn't going to happen. I sighed and opened my private account to write down my thoughts for the day. I really want to see snow. Can it please snow just once before I go back? I'm not asking for much. Even just a little flurry would be enough. After I posted it, an account left a comment below, "Your wish will come true." The ID was very familiar. We had been following each other for a long time. We'd never met, but we often commented on each other's posts. A few words of comfort when sad, a congratulations when happy, and encouragement when facing difficulties. Just like any other kind internet stranger. I replied to him, I hope so. The next day, I woke up before dawn, nervously pulling back the curtains, only to be disappointed again. It was an overcast day. I sighed, all sleepiness gone, and scrolled aimlessly through my social feed. I happened to come across Sarah's latest post. Someone said he really loves the mountains. He also said he's glad he drove me home, otherwise he would have gone to Vermont, wasted a bunch of time and money, and not even seen a single snowflake. Just then, there was a sudden knock on my door. Evan was standing there, smiling, urging me to get up. I looked at him, confused. So early? This wasn't part of our plan. But he said, "Yep. I'm taking you to see the snow. Remember to dress warm. Bundle up." Evan took me straight to the local train station. He bought tickets on the spot for Stowe. The scenery outside the train window changed, gradually shifting from a barren landscape to a classic New England village with smoke curling from its chimneys. An hour and a half later, the train arrived at the Stowe station. It had snowed all night here. Now, delicate flakes were still drifting down, landing on my hair and shoulders. My heart pounded in my chest, and a wave of pure joy washed over me. Evan flagged down a shuttle bus to take us into the village. The small town was surrounded by mountains. As far as the eye could see, there were stark, majestic slopes, all softened by a blanket of fresh white snow. As we got closer, we could see charming clapboard houses, a quaint, weathered train platform, and tall birch trees. The snow on the roofs glistened like silver, and smoke spiraled up from chimneys, weaving a warm tapestry with the morning light. I didn't even bother with an umbrella, I just dove headfirst into the snow with excitement. It was so cold, a kind of cold I had never felt before. Frost formed on my eyelashes. The crunch of my boots on the snow drowned out all other sounds, but everything in this winter wonderland was new and fascinating. A vintage steam engine from a bygone era chugged past on the forest tracks. A lamb in a farmer's backyard kicked up its heels and ran alongside me. Evan followed behind me, a smile playing in his eyes. Before, whenever he took my picture, he would always guide me on how to pose. But today, he just quietly took candid shots from the side. For lunch, we found a random diner in town and had huge portions of pot roast and mac and cheese. After eating, the snow started coming down even harder. My cheeks were bright red from the cold, and Evan pulled my scarf up to cover half my face. Winter in Stowe was everything I had ever imagined about the North. My dream of snow finally became a vivid, three-dimensional reality. Before we left the town, Evan seemed to be thinking about something, looking around. It was still the off-season for tourism, so there weren't many visitors. An old man out for a walk happened to pass by. After a moment of deliberation, Evan suddenly asked me, "Tina, can I get a picture with you? Just to remember this. It's normal to take a photo together when you're traveling." I nodded. His eyes sparkled. He walked over and flagged down the old man, asking him to press the shutter for us. The old man turned out to be quite the director. "Get closer. Why are you standing so far apart? Warm up a bit. Did you two just meet? Hey, that's the pose. Hold it right there." After all that enthusiastic direction, it turned out he didn't know how to work the camera. He missed the pose we were holding and instead captured the moment of awkward silence as Evan and I just stared at each other. The snow was falling heavily, landing on our hair, making it look like it was turning white. Both of our faces were flushed red from the cold. As I boarded the plane back home, I felt like the trip had been absolutely perfect. But Evan seemed a little wistful. The end of a trip can be a bit of a letdown, after all. Just as he had when we left, he naturally took my luggage and walked me to my dorm first. Right before I went upstairs, he cleared his throat and suddenly asked me, "Tina, as a travel buddy, how did I do?" "You were great." He then asked tentatively, "So, if you plan another trip, can you let me know? I'd like to get out and travel more, too." I gave him a polite nod. Back in my dorm, I shared the sausages I'd brought back with my roommates. One of them had gone to the dining hall for dinner and came back late. As soon as she saw me, she blurted out before I could say a word, "Tina, you have no idea how awkward it was at the dining hall just now." I saw Martin eating with that underclassman of his, laughing and talking. You two are broken up, so I wasn't going to say anything, I was just going to walk past. But he actually called out to me. He asked if you'd been crying in the dorm all week. I asked her, munching on a sausage, what did you say? I told him you weren't crying at all, that you went to Vermont and had an amazing time. But then he insisted I was covering for you, and he said that if you realized you were wrong, you should go find him, and he wouldn't really break up with you. Maybe being together for so long had given him the delusion that I couldn't live without him. I looked at the blocked contact in my phone with no intention of unblocking it. This was the longest Martin and I had gone without speaking in all the years we'd known each other. But we saw each other again anyway, at my house. My dad and Martin's dad were business partners. Our mothers were best friends and were very close. The two families often had dinner together. That day, my mom said she had big news to announce and that I absolutely had to come home for dinner. The moment I pushed the door open, I saw Martin. There were 6 seats at the table. 5 were already taken, with only the empty seat next to Martin remaining. I had no choice but to sit down. Martin looked at me, then suddenly leaned in and whispered, "Tina, it's been a week. Your face looks a little rounder. Is it swollen from crying?" It wasn't swollen. It was from all the amazing food in Vermont that had made me gain a little weight. I ignored him, but he just grinned. "Come on, princess. It's been long enough. Are you over it yet? I bought you that bag you said you really liked. I'll give it to you later. And you wanted to see snow, right? I found the perfect place for you. Sarah's family lives at a high altitude. It snows there in the winter, and you don't even have to bother with a plane. You can come with me when I drive her home for winter break. You'll see mountains covered in snow." I looked up at him and told him calmly, "No, thanks. I don't want to get too involved with an ex." Before I could finish, I heard the conversation at the table shift, turning to Martin and me. "Speaking of which, the kids are about to graduate. Shouldn't we start thinking about wedding plans?" Martin's mom said with a beaming smile, "The two of them have always been so good together, and I've always seen Tina as my daughter-in-law. Why don't we pick a good date and have the engagement party?" It was only then that I belatedly realized this was the big news my mom had been talking about. "What about you, Tina? What do you think? How do you want to plan the engagement party?" Martin's mom looked at me. Martin's dad nodded in agreement. "That's right. We have to hear what the girl wants for something like this." Suddenly, all eyes were on me. My parents looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to speak. Martin leaned closer, his voice low as he warned me. "Tina, you can throw a fit all you want in private, but don't bring it up in front of our parents. You'll just worry them, and it'll be a mess to clean up." It wasn't the first time he'd said something like that. That's why every time he hurt me in the past, I just swallowed it and saved my tears for my pillow. But things were different this time, and both sets of parents needed to be informed. I spoke softly. "Martin and I have already broken up. The engagement is off." My words sent ripples through the room. The person with the biggest reaction wasn't our parents, it was Martin. He frowned at me, his anger flaring up instantly. "Tina, have you had enough? An engagement is a huge deal. You can't just call it off whenever you're unhappy. Do you think this is a game?" My parents also spoke up disapprovingly. "Tina, you shouldn't be so impulsive. If there's a misunderstanding, you can sit down and talk it out." Martin's mom told him to be quiet, then turned to me with a gentle voice. "Tina, did Martin do something to upset you? You tell me, and I'll teach him a lesson for you. I guarantee he'll be on his best behavior from now on. I've watched you grow up. We've all seen how much you and Martin care for each other after all these years. You can't let your emotions get the best of you." Faced with universal opposition, I just smiled. "I'm not being emotional. I've thought this through very clearly. I hadn't planned on bringing up the breakup at the dinner table. I had intended to tell my parents privately. But since it had come to this, We might as well clear the air right here. Martin, what did you take time off for last week? Did you tell your parents? It was obvious Martin hadn't said a thing. When I brought it up, a flicker of panic crossed his face. So, I said it for him. He drove 900 miles to take a younger student home and stayed at her house for 6 days. Martin's mom was taken aback. Is that true? You guys taught me to be kind since I was a kid. That student's family is poor, her parents are getting a divorce, and she was desperate to get home but couldn't get a ticket. That's why I drove her. Martin was trying his best to claim the moral high ground. Hearing this, Martin's dad nodded along. Helping a classmate is a good thing. Tina, don't overthink it. Martin is just a helpful person. That's a great quality to have. I used to think Martin's parents were wonderful. They would take me on outings, think of me when they saw pretty jewelry, and always had a red envelope ready for me during the holidays with a personal blessing written on it. But at the end of the day, there are degrees of closeness. I knew they would subconsciously side with Martin. So, I opened Sarah's social media feed. I had kept her as a contact for this very moment. Here. This is the student's feed. You can take a look. The phone was passed around the table. As Martin's parents read, their expressions darkened. It was clear they also understood the overly intimate implications of her posts. Only Martin looked completely baffled. He stared at Sarah's feed on my phone, then pulled out his own to compare, finally muttering a curse under his breath. I never saw any of this. She blocked me. Tina, I had no idea she posted all that. A lot of what she wrote, I never even said, she made it up. I only ever saw her as a regular classmate. If I had known she felt that way about me, I would have stayed away from her. With just a few words, he completely absolved himself of any blame. Martin's mom seized the opportunity to persuade me. Tina, now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, let's not talk about breaking up. It's not easy to find a partner these days, especially one from a good family. And look at Martin, his looks, his build. Are there any guys at your university who are a better catch than him? Actually, yes, there was. Evan, the universally acknowledged campus heartthrob. If you were to rank them, Martin would definitely come in second. As if reading my mind, Martin cut me off. Evan might be handsome, but it's never going to happen with you. He's into someone else recently. I heard he called off his arranged marriage and even changed his phone's lock screen to a picture of a girl's back in the snow. I froze. A girl's back in the snow? Was it a stock photo or a real picture? Martin's mom was still asking me, Tina, are you mad because your trip to Vermont got cancelled? I'll pay for you two to go. You can go during winter break. She's already been, my mom, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. She pulled out the travel photos I had sent her. Tina went to Vermont last week. I thought you went with Martin, she said, looking puzzled. She turned to me. But if Martin was with his classmate, who did you go with? Martin stared in disbelief at the photos of me in Stowe. Then he asked, incredulous, you didn't cancel your ticket? I canceled yours, not mine. No wonder my roommate said he didn't see you in our elective. Then why would Evan say you were in class together? He stopped mid-sentence, realization dawning on him. The person you went to Vermont with, it was Evan, wasn't it? I nodded. I was exhausted from being out all day and fell asleep on the subway. He answered the phone. I never hid anything from you. His expression shifted from shock to fury. You went on a trip with another guy? So, he did know it was inappropriate to travel alone with someone of the opposite sex. And yet he had slept in another woman's bed? Is there a problem? We were already broken up before I left. A single woman traveling with a single man doesn't violate any moral code, does it? The dinner did not end well. Because of the breakup, all of our parents' plans had gone up in smoke. Martin, who had been so nonchalant, finally started to panic. Are you really sure you can leave me? When we were dating, the thought of breaking up always seemed terrifying. Every time we stopped talking, I would be so upset I couldn't sleep, just waiting desperately for a message from him. But now that it had actually happened, I suddenly felt like no one is truly indispensable in someone else's life. When it's time to let go, you let go. Life goes on just the same. I looked at him and said softly, I'm sure. Usually, after a family dinner, Martin would walk back to campus with me. This time, I walked back alone. As I walked, I posted my random thoughts on my private account. Was so busy arguing I didn't even eat properly. What a waste of a good meal. I've decided. If there's a next time, I'm filling my stomach before I start a fight. Craving something sweet. I want a jasmine milk tea and a durian crepe cake. I walked slowly, letting the lake breeze soothe my troubled mind. After seeing Sarah's social media, my parents were very disappointed in Martin. My engagement to him was officially off. A relationship that had spanned more than a decade had finally run its course. Emotions churned inside me. I wrapped my coat tighter and let the wind blow on me for a long time before slowly heading back to my dorm. At the entrance to my dorm building, I saw a tall, slender figure. His bangs were messy from the wind. He stood under a cotton tree, looking up expectantly, as if waiting for someone. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he walked toward me carrying a cake box and 4 cups of bubble tea. It was Evan. The cake was a durian milk crepe cake. The bubble teas were a variety: coconut matcha, grape green tea, osmanthus rice wine, and jasmine milk foam. Evan explained, I suddenly had a craving for cake today, but I bought the wrong flavor. I ended up with durian crepe. I don't like durian, but I remembered you saying during our trip that you love it, so I brought it for you. I pointed to the 4 cups of tea in his hand. Did you buy the wrong flavor of tea, too? No. The evening streetlight stretched his shadow long behind him. He pressed his lips together. I had a prepaid card at the boba shop on campus, and it was expiring today, so I had to buy a bunch of drinks in a hurry. His story was full of holes, but I didn't have the heart to call him out on it. I just thanked him. Well, thank you. How much do I owe you? I can transfer it to you. He paused, then shook his head. Don't worry about it. If you don't take them, it'd be a shame to throw them away. I should be thanking you for helping me get rid of all this stuff. Afraid I wouldn't accept, he pushed the items into my arms and quickly left. There were exactly 4 cups of tea, 1 for each of my roommates. Among them was the jasmine milk foam I had been craving. I stared at his retreating back, lost in thought, and suddenly realized that my private account was like a wishing well. I had wished to get concert tickets before, and although I didn't win the lottery, a classmate sold me their 2 tickets at face value. Before that, I entered a Polaroid camera giveaway, wishing I would win. My name wasn't on the winners list, but the organizers gave me a camera anyway, saying they had added an extra lucky prize and I had been chosen. It was all too lucky, so lucky it was starting to feel unnatural. After that day, Martin kept trying to add me as a friend. I never accepted. So he started waiting for me outside my dorm. I looked at him, feeling weary. Have you ever heard the saying? A good ex should be like they're dead. He just shook his head. Tina, how can you throw away all these years we've had together? People are strange. They don't cherish what they have, but the moment they lose it, they're filled with regret. He also told me, don't trust Evan. Rich kids like him are just looking for something new and fun. They're just playing around. I told him bluntly, Evan is not the reason we broke up. And I'm not with him. He was coming to find me so often that he even attracted Sarah's attention. I had met Sarah once before when I went with Martin to one of his lab parties. Back then, the girl was timid, dressed in drab clothes, and spoke in a small voice. She looked like an easy target, and the other guys in the lab kept trying to get her to drink. I couldn't stand it and quietly nudged Martin's hand. Martin got the hint and blocked all the drinks for her. The small girl in the corner suddenly looked up, her eyes shining brightly. The Sarah of today was completely different. She was wearing makeup and a long white dress, pulling on Martin's arm and urging him to go to the lab. "Martin, my program won't run." In the past, Martin would have always agreed. But this time, he just brushed her off. "If it won't run, go find the professor." "Why are you asking me?" Sarah came to find him 3 times and was sent away 3 times. The 3rd time, Sarah lost her temper too. "Martin, don't you like me? You and Tina are broken up now, so why are you still chasing after her? Why can't you be with me?" Martin seemed to laugh out of sheer frustration. "When did I ever say I liked you? If you don't like me, then why did you block the drinks for me at the party when I was being forced to drink?" "That was because Tina told me to help you." Sarah was stunned for a moment, then asked, "When I was carrying heavy things upstairs, everyone else ignored me. If you didn't like me, why did you help me? And, if you don't like me, why did you keep leaving a bottle of milk on my desk after you found out I was skipping breakfast? You're just with Tina out of habit. The one you like is me, Martin." Her words left Martin speechless. He gritted his teeth in frustration. "That's because Tina said you were having a hard time and told me to help you when I could. And I never left you any milk. She was the one who would bring you a bottle when she came to the lab to see me." Sarah seemed completely blindsided by this answer and just stood there, frozen. After a long silence, she looked up at me in disbelief, her eyes red. That wasn't entirely true. Martin's initial kindness toward her was indeed because of me. But later, it went off track. That wasn't my doing. I couldn't say whether Martin had fallen in love with Sarah later on, but I knew his heart had strayed. And once a man's heart has strayed, he's not worth keeping. I was in a hurry to get to class, so I didn't stay to get tangled up with them. Today, my wishing well account worked its magic again. I had ordered a huge plate of Szechuan chicken, but my roommate bailed on me at the last minute. So I posted a note, hoping someone would come to the campus dining hall to help me finish it. 15 minutes later, Evan just happened to be passing by and ended up having dinner with me. While we ate, he was telling me about the snow in the Altai Mountains. He said the Heimu village there was beautiful in the winter, and there was a ski resort nearby with a 7-mile long run we could try. Everything was fine when we parted ways. He said he would send me some pictures of Heimu's winter scenery later. But less than an hour later, he was in trouble. Martin had gotten into a fight with him. A video of Martin and Evan fighting was posted in a group chat. My roommate forwarded it to me. When I first heard the news, I was a little worried. Martin had taken Taekwondo when he was younger and was a black belt. Evan looked like he worked out, but he had a refined air about him and didn't seem like the type to get into fights. After watching the video, I breathed a sigh of relief. It was about a 60-40 split. Martin was the 40. Evan was the 60. From the looks of it, the fight wasn't on campus but in a park nearby. I could vaguely hear Martin mentioning my name. Since it was related to me, and I was nearby, I decided to go check it out. When I arrived, Evan had the upper hand, practically pinning Martin down. Martin was furious, cursing, "If it wasn't for you, Tina would never have broken up with me. This is all your fault." Evan, who was always so gentle and polite around me, looked completely different. I had never seen him like this. His sleeves were rolled up, his chin was high, and his voice was cold and defiant. "Her breaking up with you has nothing to do with me. You were just too stupid to see a snake when it was right in front of you. Easy for you to say. You think you could spot one?" Martin gritted out, furious. Evan just gave a cool nod. "I could. Because I'm a snake, too." And then they started fighting even more fiercely. But as I got closer, Evan, who had been in the middle of the fight, suddenly stopped. Martin's punch landed squarely on his shoulder. He clutched his injured arm and didn't fight back, just stood there, his face pale. There was a gash on his forehead, and a trickle of blood ran down his cheek. It looked serious. Martin hadn't noticed me yet and yelled at him, "What's wrong? You're not fighting back? Scared?" After saying that, he finally saw me and immediately stopped. I walked over to Evan and asked him if he was okay. He swayed on his feet, looking like he was in a lot of pain, but he still managed to smile at me, shaking his head with effort. Tina, I'm fine. Martin just randomly came and attacked me. I don't even know what happened. This guy is emotionally unstable. You should go, stay away from him. Martin, who had calmed down, flared up again at his words. What? Are you seriously putting on an act right now? You manipulative jerk, how can you be so disgusting? It looked like they were about to start fighting again, but luckily, our academic advisor arrived and sent them both to the hospital. Evan looked more seriously injured, but it was all superficial. He would recover quickly. Martin wasn't so lucky. Evan's punches had been vicious and aimed at places you couldn't see. He had several internal injuries. To make matters worse, Martin had started the fight. He was the one who would get disciplined, and he was the one who had to stay in the hospital. I didn't leave the hospital right away. I pulled up a chair and sat next to Martin's bed. Can we talk? He wasn't feeling well, but he forced himself to look at me. Do you remember when we were kids, and I fell in the water? After you saved me, you begged me to give you 3 chances if you ever did anything wrong in the future. Martin looked dazed for a moment, then nodded slowly. I think I remember something like that. So he had forgotten. I gave you 3 chances. The first time was our anniversary. You stood me up for Sarah. I watched the food get cold, and my heart sank with it. The second time was the day of the concert. You bought her pads and hot brown sugar water and helped her fix her lab data. I had a high fever, so bad that my roommate had to take me to the hospital for an 4 drip, while you ignored me for 3 days because you thought I was throwing a tantrum. At that moment, staring at the needle in my hand, I told myself I would give you one last chance. If something like that happened one more time, we were done. Because I had stayed, his face had initially been filled with hopeful joy. But as I spoke, that joy shattered, piece by piece, replaced by confusion and regret. I used to really love you. The kind of love where I wanted to marry you. But not anymore. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that our breakup has nothing to do with Evan. Don't go looking for trouble with people who have nothing to do with it. With that said, I turned and left. I could faintly hear Martin's choked sobs from inside the room. It sounded like the wind blowing through a cold, lonely window, knocking over a vase. I ran into Evan, who hadn't left yet, in the hallway. Seeing me come out so quickly, he breathed a sigh of relief and limped toward me. Tina, could you do me a favor and walk me back to my dorm? I twisted my ankle. It's a little hard to walk. I was pretty sure his ankle hadn't been injured. Just as I was about to ask, our advisor came over enthusiastically and took it upon himself to get Evan home. So, I walked back to my dorm alone. I opened my private account, looked at the familiar friend I was following, and for the first time, I opened a private chat with them. You up? Clearly, he was. He replied instantly. Yeah. What's up? His tone was like that of an old friend. Come to think of it, we had known each other for 4 years. I remember the first time we interacted. You posted something about feeling like your future was mapped out and that life had no meaning. I saw it and thought you were suicidal, so I commented "Good morning" every day for a month and kept asking how you were doing. He was probably confused about why I was suddenly bringing up the past, but he played along. That's right. You also encouraged me to find a hobby, like photography. Because of your recommendation, I started learning about it and gradually fell in love with it. I'm really grateful to you. I stared at that sentence for half a minute. I typed and deleted my words in the chat box over and over, finally settling on. You like me? He replied quickly, yes. So, I sent another message, Evan, you like me? He was clearly still online, but this time, he didn't reply. I waited for 3 minutes, and he still hadn't responded. Apparently, people can be bold and fearless behind a pseudonym, but they become timid and cautious once their cover is blown. After a long pause, he slowly sent a question mark. How did you know it was me? Because you made it pretty obvious. I felt like some things needed to be said clearly. I'm grateful that you like me. But I just got out of a long-term relationship. I think jumping into a new one right after a breakup is irresponsible to myself and to the other person. I also need a cooling-off period to sort myself out and make sure I'm not starting a new relationship just to cure my loneliness. A moment later, Evan sent me a voice message. His voice was beautiful, clear and light, reminding me of the falling snow in Stowe. I understand, and I know I should give you time. It's just that, Tina, you're so amazing. I've waited so long for you to be single, and I'm afraid if I'm one step too late, someone else will snatch you up. I'm not in a hurry. You can take all the time you need to sort things out. I'll wait. I don't mind waiting a little longer. And, Tina, I really do like you. After hanging up, I had a good night's sleep. Evan and I became friends who saw each other occasionally. We talked about travel and photography, about the snow in the northeast and the deserts in the west. As for Martin, after we cleared the air that day, he didn't come looking for me again. Our parents' relationship wasn't significantly affected. When we saw each other at dinners, we would just give a calm nod of acknowledgement. But Martin wasn't doing well. He had lost a lot of weight, and his cheeks were visibly sunken. His mom tried to get us back together a few times, but I refused each time. She tried to get my parents to act as mediators, but they didn't agree either. Let Tina decide what's best for her. Life was peaceful, and I was eagerly looking forward to my winter break trip. But before the break, I suddenly received an apology letter. The letter was unsigned. But from the contents, I could guess it was from Sarah. I thought I liked Martin, so I did everything I could to drive a wedge between you two. Later, I realized that the kindness I craved was given to me by the very person I hurt. So, I'm sorry. I think that when two people are truly in love, they can't be driven apart by someone else's meddling. So, in the end, the problem was with my relationship with Martin. Later, winter break arrived as scheduled. Evan and I became travel buddies once again. We didn't go to the Altai Mountains, we went back to the northeast. This time, we went to Mount Washington. The snow fell like a thick curtain of salt, heavy with a raw, almost brutal vitality. At the point where our eyelashes were frosting over, we climbed the 1,442 steps and finally came face to face with the magnificent white expanse of the summit lake. Evan pulled a pair of champagne flutes he had carried all the way up from his bag, poured some champagne, and clinked glasses with me. I smiled at him and held my phone out to him. Check out my new wallpaper. Like it? He unlocked the screen and then froze. The new wallpaper was the picture of us in Stowe. Two people with bright red cheeks from the cold, smiling at the camera. Evan, do you like me? He said, I do. Someone else who had climbed to the summit was playing a song on their speaker. Loving in the snow, they say a promise crystallized below zero will never break. The lyrics felt fitting for the moment. I turned my head to look at him. Then stopped just being my travel buddy. Do you want to be my boyfriend? The snowy landscape was painted in soft shades of pink and orange. Evan reached his hand out to me. In a daze, I thought I heard someone nearby whisper. To have and to hold, until we're gray and old, with the mountains as our witness.